As the ripple effect of COVID-19 pandemic still remains visible on key sectors of the economy, despite its continued dependence on oil, the economic outlook for the country is expected to be steady, going by the marginal growth recorded in the past year, as the services sector of the country's economy will continue to outpace the real sector in 2022. However, with the positive projections made by the World Bank and IMF for the economic outlook for the year 2022, economic analysts are of the view that macroeconomic challenges such as insecurity, foreign exchange scarcity, decline in foreign investment inflows, sectoral rigidity, infrastructure deficit, inadequate skilled workforce, policy inconsistency, and regulatory bottlenecks are part of the issues that will dent improved economic outcomes if not adequately addressed. Joining me virtually to dissect some issues around Nigeria's economy is Professor Patrick Utomi, who is a Nigerian professor of political economy and management expert. He's a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants of Nigeria and a former presidential candidate. He's a founder of the Center for Value in Leadership and the African Democratic Congress. It's good to see you, sir. Prof. Good afternoon.
Good morning, or well, good afternoon. So, yeah.
All right, it's morning over there. Now, let's start with an overview of Nigeria's economy with what we saw with COVID-19. We're able to scale through 2 recessions out of it, but the growth remains fragile. That's what everyone is saying. What are you thinking? Let's do an overview before we go to some specific issues affecting our growth, Prof.
Well, it's important that we all be very, very careful and be cooperative because what is at stake is our country and the lives of ordinary people, so that we don't get bombastic and get caught in politics and games and make things worse for people. The naked truth is that we went through 2 recessions because of a variety of things, including a very dirigist approach to economic management. You know, dirigism, state control mentality in how policies are rolled out, played very negatively on the performance of the economy in the last couple of years and led to that poor performance. But compounding all of that has been the supply chain crisis that came with the COVID-19 pandemic, the challenges that were brought by oil prices going south, the problems of the ports being a huge mess following the supply chain crisis also, with the lockdowns and all of that, have made it difficult for many people to live a decent life. Now, I see the statistics, I see the numbers. It's almost like the president was saying in the famous Channels interview, have you got your arithmetic or calculations right? But, you know, seriously, the truth of the matter is we say that inflation is coming down, and it is coming down. But we must ask ourselves, is this a lag? Because in truth, inflation is ratcheting up around the world. I mean, I'm in Barbados right now, but I've been in the United States for a bit, and, you know, unlike the American economic engine, you see shelves that are empty or not well stocked. You see inflation hitting new highs, close to my Carter early Reagan years when I lived here as a grad student in the late 70s, when inflation went to 9%, you know, and the real decline of American economy set in before the Reagan era revival of entrepreneurship then took place. So these are real threats to the economy, and we need to manage them. How do we manage them is what we must put our minds to. We don't want to play games around how we manage them. We are borrowing too much, yet we need to stimulate the economy. So that's a dilemma. How do we manage that? How do we make government much more efficient? How do we get politicians to stop using public resources recklessly in a time where any money that goes into the economy is important to be a stimulant of production? Because the main challenge of Nigerian economy is that we don't produce. We essentially just share. You know, in this period of sharing, we have a fundamental problem. So how do we stimulate production in the economy? And how do we ensure that even though stimulating production will have an immediate inflationary consequence, that in the long term it is not, you know, a terrible kind of inflation, by ensuring that the use of money goes to high impact areas that stimulate further production, that enable us get the export sector going again. I know that we've had some progress in non-oil export, but it's something that we need to move up in a very systematic way, because oil is gone as far as I'm concerned. The prices have gone up recently. Now we've hit how many year high since 2014? We hit a high from 2014 in terms of oil prices crossing the $90 mark and so on. But oil is still, let's call it a palliative. And the fact that we know that in the calculation of the great oil giants, 16, 17 years from now, oil is completely toast. So how do we plan growth? This is what the real challenge now. I don't know your other questions, so I'll stop there until you raise the issues, and I can then give my thoughts on some of that.
Interesting one there, Prof. Prof, the big elephant in the cupboard, or maybe one of the problems, is the issue of subsidy. And I'd like to get your views in regards to subsidy. We've talked about this for some time, and finally, the PIA has been extended by 18 months just to accommodate subsidy. And we're talking about revenue challenge in our country. What do you make of this?
The two critical points here, let's bear in mind. One is the problem of trust. Let's be very honest, the Nigerian people don't trust the government they have today. When you have a trust deficit and people assume that you're going to just tax them more, literally speaking, by quote unquote charging more for this product, and then using it for final spending to put in the pocket before the end of the term of the government, they're going to resist that kind of change in policy with everything they've got. If there was a higher level of trust, this is actually the best time to deal with the issue of subsidy once and for all. A government that is term limited and all of that. This is the time to have the kind of moral courage to do what needs to be done. But if they don't trust you, and if you yourself can, don't have the trust that you will spend that money in a way that will better the economy rather than taking care of your retirement, so to speak, then there is a problem. And that's where we are. That's why the people are resisting so strongly. But the idea of continuing to pour money into petrol pricing does not make sense. But it's all in context. I mean, I was one of those who protested in 2012, the Occupy, Falomo, Occupy, wherever it was. And the reason was simple. It wasn't that I was a supporter of subsidy. It was that I thought that the reason it was being done was to generate cash flow for the friends of the government to use to fund the 2015 election. In the same way, any attempt to do it now sends that kind of impression to the people. So whereas the idea of subsidy isn't intelligent, the truth is that both the timing and the behavior of the government is what determines whether people accept this as an appropriate policy instrument for the moment. If this government then departs and there is a capable, serious, honest government in its place that really is a people-based government, it can show the people alternative paths to this continuous waste of money. There must be a clear alternative plan, and where it's not even where the money will be used, because really, truly, the very way that we do it does not make sense. Look, let me give an example. I gave this example in 2012, and I've challenged my friends who are in the petrol business, as I call it, to tell me where in the world it is assumed once you say, I'm a petrol oil marketer, whatever it is they call independent marketer, people just say, Baba, somebody who has money. It should not be true if there is an honest petrol retailing business. Why should it not be true? Because it is the ultimate commodity, petrol. The margins are so razor thin that nobody gets rich on just selling petrol. This is why the structure of petrol retailing around the world has so changed. In fact, if you go to the United States, you will find that some of the biggest retailers today are supermarkets located in malls. So first of all, real estate is important for them for the access to the retailing, and patched onto the real estate is some pumps where you go and yourself take your petrol, and then you pay the money, which gives them regional theme margins, but they already have you in their space, and they make some more cobbles or cents off of you while you're in their space buying petrol. Same with the original concept that brought us Bonjour, Minimart, and all of those. The power of petrol is that you must buy it in this current order before Elon Musk and others with electric cars and alternative power sources completely eliminate fossil fuels as a source of powering automobiles. When you then go in there to buy this petrol that you need, you can then go into Minimart and buy some snacks or whatever, which is where they then make the money. But in Nigeria, you just start petrol station, they say, Baba, the demand is happening. It is because the process is just a corrupted process that allows games to be played and puts plenty of money in the pockets of people creating very little value. That's what I opposed in 2012. That's what I still worry about today. And the policymakers haven't got it right. 70% of the decisions that have been made on the petroleum sector since this government came, I can completely disagree with. Completely, and show evidence how it is negative on the Nigerian economy. But you see, we have not put the right people to make the right choices for the Nigerian people's sake. And that is the tragedy of what we are dealing with.
So finally, because time is already fast spent, interesting conversation, I must say, Prof. The monetary side, talking about the central bank, has a lot of interventions to support growth and development. Do you think the fiscal side is complementing these efforts? And what can really be done from both sides? At least a level of inclusive growth, if we can achieve as we move on in the new year.
You see, part of the reason that I was very quiet about the nature of central bank interventions a couple of years ago was because the fiscal side was literally dead. I mean, nobody was making fiscal policy choices that made much sense. And so, in a manner of speaking, Godwin Emefiele and his team felt that they had to drive the economy. That's not the way it should be. However, in the existence of a gap, something needed to be done, and it was being done. But I think we've now gone far too far. The central bank has even forgotten what monetary policy is, as they are essentially focused on becoming the fiscal manager for the economy. And that is puts the whole structure of economic management on its head. We need to pull away from that. The central bank has no mechanism for knowing whether the money is pumping into agriculture in Kebbi State is producing the outcomes and responding appropriately, but it feels a need to stimulate some sectors. And the truth of the matter is that's produced incredible leakages. The targeting has been weak. There have been problems. I have followed closely the work of the Ministry of Agriculture. I know what the challenges are, So that strategy has not worked. We need to create a strong fiscal team to ensure that we get the right fiscal policy stimulations going in the economy. And then we can get central bank to focus on monetary policy and watch its primary duty, tracking inflation, ensuring that money supply is at the rate that does not lead to inflation killing the income of poor people, and encouraging investment. Look, very few people investing in Nigeria, let's be honest. A lot of investments that should have come to Nigeria are going to Ghana instead. Why is this so? A variety of reasons. Regulatory risk in Nigeria is considered one of the worst risks in doing business in Nigeria. In fact, far worse than market risk. So foreign investors have ruled out. The Nigerian Stock Exchange is challenged at this moment because of the investment profile of Nigeria. And then many people are waiting, unfortunately for us. This government became lame dog 2.5 years towards its run. That's a shame. Since more than a year ago, everybody's been waiting till the end of the Buhari administration to take a decision on Nigeria. That is a tragedy for our country. Look at how much time we're losing just because of the way we've managed the country and managed the economy. This is something that we must face and do something about so that we don't have a repeat of this kind of situation in the future, because it's very costly for our economy.
There's going to be a part 2 of this discussion so we can really get more from you with your submission regards Nigerian economy. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Professor Pat Utomi. There.
It was a great pleasure to join you.